You can draw this in Procreate. In this You Can Draw This video, we will be creating an eye in Procreate. And we'll just be using the brushes that are already in the app. This video tutorial might be a bit more challenging, but don't worry because you can always hit pause, rewind, or follow the tutorial multiple times, of course. In any case, I will do my best to make it as simple as possible. And once you've reached the end of the video tutorial and you have your result, then do be sure to share it on Instagram and tag me in the image. That way I will be able to find it and perhaps we'll be seeing your work in the next You Can Draw This video. In this video, we'll be drawing a pretty basic looking eye. If you want to go more in depth, watch more in-depth video tutorials and paint an even more realistic looking eye, then do be sure to check out my Patreon page. That said, let's get started. First thing we'll do is talk about the canvas size. It's 3000 by 2000 pixels. And I don't have a color palette this time because we will be working in grayscale. What you can do though is follow the link in the description and grab my working file. Grab my high resolution working file and take a closer look on my work. Let's create a drawing guide. We'll go to the wrench and turn on drawing guide. This drawing guide will help you to measure the proportions and create the same eye as I'm making here. So go to edit drawing guide, and here in the lower right corner we will set it to 115 pixels. Click done. And I would like to set the color to a pinkish color. So I will drag the slider to the right. Do be sure that assisted drawing is turned off, otherwise you will only be able to paint straight lines and we don't want that. Now click done. And the next thing I'd like to do is add a little bit of value to our background. So click the background color and let's add a slight gray. I'm in the classic mode in the color menu. Be sure that the color is set all the way to the left. Totally desaturated, and let's go to around here, making a grayish looking canvas. That way we can build up highlights as well on this canvas. And I will go to layer 1 to get started drawing. First thing we'll do is create a circle that will be 6 by 6 squares. And we'll do that by using the 6B pencil, which you can find under sketching. For our color, let's just pick a dark gray. The size of your brush doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you can make thin lines. And let's draw a circle. Hold your pen in place and tap one finger on your screen to let it snap to a perfect circle. And of course, you can go to Edit Shape to move it around. Well, it's about 6 by 6 squares right now, so I'm happy with that. If you want to resize your circle, you can always go to the arrow here, have it set to uniform, and resize your circle if needed, or move it around, whatever you like. Next, I would like to add a little pupil. So make a circle again, hold your pen in place. Tap your finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And you can use Edit Shape to move it around. And make sure that it's in the center of your iris. Now we are going to draw the eyelids. We'll start with the upper eyelid. And the upper eyelid, if you look at your own eyes or if you look at photos, you'll see that that upper eyelid usually it covers a part of that iris. So we'll make a curved line going from the left side to the right side. It'll be a bit curved and it'll be a bit lower on the right side than on the left side. And then this line will continue here on the right side to the corner of the eye. To about there. And on this side as well, it'll go down a little bit steeper. And the lower eyelid, it usually just about touches that underside of the iris. So let's make a curve underneath going towards this corner of the eye. And then to this side. And then around here we have that corner of the eye where you'll find a tear duct and other stuff that I don't know the names of. But you have that little thingy there. You shouldn't forget that. It's like a little tiny ball. And you have this curved line here. So this is about the shape of the lower and the upper eyelid. And now let's add that crease that you'll find on top of that upper eyelid. It'll start about here. And it'll follow that curve that we just created. And we'll go just above that iris line. And then we'll go down here. So that eyeball that's in the socket, it'll create this bulge on top. We have this dark fold here. And it's something that you'll easily forget, but adding this crease above the eye, that will add to the volume of the eye. Otherwise, it'll look unnatural. Unless you are drawing a monolid eye, then you won't see that crease. Right here, we have that lower eyelid. That lower eyelid, it has volume. It has a certain thickness, that skin, so you will be able to see that plane. Let's create a line that's following that same curve, and that will be that volume of the skin there. And here it'll be thinner. So it'll go all the way to that corner. And here underneath the lower eyelid, you will also see a slight bulge because of that eyeball. It's creating this bulge underneath. And this is just a little bit of a sketch, so it doesn't have to be all tidy. Don't worry, we just need some guidelines for our painting. This is a great moment to hit pause and check all the guidelines. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. You can check the guidelines, check your image to see what your proportions look like. Now that we have our basic shape, we can turn off the drawing guide. You can go to the wrench, turn it off here, and we will create a new layer underneath this lines layer that we just created, this sketch. So click the plus and drag this layer underneath the layer that we just created. Let's click the N and turn down the opacity a little bit. Let's go to 50% by dragging this slider. And now on this layer 2, we will start using a different brush to add some shadow. We'll go to the charcoals and use the carbon stick. I'm still using that very dark gray. I have the brush opacity set to 75% and the size is at around 2%. And now I'd like to focus on the darkest areas of the eye. And since the light is coming from above, there will be a shadow underneath that upper eyelid. So you want that area to be darker. So let's just follow that curve and darken it there. Especially here on that iris, because that iris is already a bit darker. And we'll also follow that shape of the iris, that circle, make that outer part of the iris a bit darker. Just follow that line that we already created and make this darker. And you can also make these diagonal and these straight lines to add a little bit of texture to that iris. And it reminds me a bit of the You Can Draw This Iris video. You could actually use the same techniques from that video and use it in here. And let's darken this pupil. And of course we're drawing a pretty basic eye here. But you can add as much detail as you like. I'm just going to try and keep it as simple as possible. Now I'll make this upper part of the iris a bit darker because, like I said, the light is coming from above and this area will be a bit in shadow, so that will naturally be darker. I'll also darken the outside of the iris that usually has a dark edge. And I'll make these dark and light lines. Well, actually just dark lines because I'm using a dark color. But I'll leave some gaps here and make these strokes to add that texture to the iris. Because the iris is like a muscle and you'll see these little folds, these little lines there. Another area where you'll find shadow is that crease, of course. So let's follow that shape as well. Just follow that sketch. And add that shadow there. Add some shadow in the corner of the eye here. And let's make the brush a little bit bigger. I'll go to 10% for some bigger areas of darkness. Let's darken up this white of the eye, for instance, because white of the eye, it is actually almost never really white. So let's darken that up a little bit, as well as this underside of that lower eyelid here. It'll be a bit in shadow. Next, let's add some global lights. I'll just drag the slider to the light side. And let's add some light here on the upper eyelid, for instance. When the light is coming from above, that's where the light will hit. Just like here on the skin a little bit. And let me make the brush a bit smaller. I'll go for 3%. Let's lighten up this area of the white of the eye slightly. And let me turn down that line layer a bit more. Let's go for 10%. I don't want it to be distracting us. Let's lighten this plane a little bit. That volume of that lower eyelid. That will be hit by light as well. And we can make the brush smaller, 2%. And let's add some lighter touches to that iris as well. Adding a little bit more texture. A little bit of a highlight here. Some light here in the corner. Everything's still pretty global because we are using a pretty big brush. And now for our next step, we can make things a bit more tidy by using the 6B pencil again. Let's do it on a different layer. Let's make a new layer just to be sure. If you don't like whatever you're going to do next, then you can still fix things if you're working on a new layer, but you could just do everything on one layer. That wouldn't be a problem either. Let's go to the sketching brushes again and use the 6B pencil. I'd like to go and work with some very dark colors first. Well, near black, using near black. Let's make it 70%. Okay, now all you need to do is scroll down your screen just a little bit and hit that bell notification button. That way you won't miss the next You Can Draw This video and you'll help grow this channel. That's like a win-win situation. And then we'll start adding the more little details, making some more crisp edges here. Instance underneath that upper eyelid. You want to create a nice balance between the crisp edges and the soft transitions. You don't want all soft transitions in your painting when you're drawing, and you don't want everything to look soft either. Or did I just say soft? Well, in any case, you want a nice balance of soft edges and crisp edges. You don't want everything to look soft or everything to look super crisp. So when you're looking at references, try to keep an eye on that. Try to look where you see soft transitions and where you see very crisp edges. I'm going to darken up this area, this shadow, just above that highlight. And I'll darken up that pupil. Just want to add some extra contrast. You can slowly work your way from low contrast to high contrast, adding darker darks and lighter lights. Follow this little edge over here, defining that corner of the eye a little bit more. And we'll follow this line of the lower eyelid. You'll see a little dark edge there. Also on this side, just follow that line that we already created. And let's also make this crease a little bit more crisp. So let's just follow that line. Make that a crisp looking shadow there. And like I said, be sure to use reference images. You can find a lot of pictures of nice looking eyes on Pinterest, for instance, or websites like Unsplash or Pexels, or just grab a mirror and look at your own eye. Make photos of your friend's eyes. It's just a matter of practicing a lot. Gonna darken up this edge a little bit. And you can just slowly build up those details in the eye. Just make sure that you practice creating that basic shape of the eye first. And once you got the hang of that, you can start building up those details. And it's also great practice to work in grayscale. You won't have the distraction of the colors. You can focus on values and on edges without having that distraction of all of those colors. If you want me to do a video about a colored eye once, then do be sure to let me know in the comment section. And you might be able to convince me. Alright, shall we add some eyelashes now? I think it's about time. Let's add a new layer to create those. So we'll click the plus for a new layer. That way, once we have created the eyelashes, we can still work underneath them without ruining them. Let's turn off the sketch. We don't need that anymore. And we'll be using the 6B pencil with the color that we already got, well, the near black. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, perhaps 45. Yeah, that's nice. The important thing when creating eyelashes is the place where they are attached to the eyelid. Just like the lower eyelid, that upper eyelid, it has some volume. And the eyelashes will grow just out of that edge of that, well, that thick layer of skin. They won't come out right here near the eyeball. That would be quite uncomfortable. So attach them just above that edge. And they will curve. Sometimes they will curve down, covering the eye a little bit, but still start your curve just above that edge. And also be sure to vary the shapes and the angles of your eyelashes. Don't make them like this, all the same length, but make them overlap. Make some a bit shorter. Some will curve down a little bit more. If you vary that, that will make it look a lot more realistic. So they'll curve down a little bit and then curve to the right. At least the eyelashes on the right side will curve to the right. Those on the left side, as you'll see later, will curve to the left. And here in the center, they will curve to the front a little bit. Still make sure that you attach them in the right place. And vary the curves, vary the lengths, make them overlap. And as you can see here on the left side, they will curve to the left. Just make sure that you attach them in the right place. And here, as you go towards the corner of the eye, you'll see less and less eyelashes. They'll become a bit shorter. You'll see more eyelashes towards that center of the eyelid. And the great thing about working on a separate layer in this case, that if you don't like your eyelashes, you can always just clear your layer and start over. Don't worry about that. Now let's move to the lower eyelashes. Those are usually a bit thinner and a bit lighter. I would like to grab a lighter gray, just slightly, and let's start creating these. And they are attached to that edge of that lower eyelid. Don't make them start near that white of the eye. Keep an eye on that volume of that lower eyelid. And on the lower eyelid, you'll find a bit less eyelashes, and they tend to clump together a little bit. Again, the ones on the right will curve to the right, and the ones on the left will curve towards the left. And there will be less eyelashes near that corner of the eye. They will be a bit shorter. Now we can work on the final details of our eye. Let's go back to that layer 3 on which we were working on those details. Let me zoom in a little bit more, and we can just grab local colors. And while using this 6B pencil, we can adjust things a little bit. I'd like to make this move a bit to this side, for instance. And we can add these eyelashes to the reflection here. because these eyelashes, they will block the light. So you will see that in the light reflection on the eyeball. Let's also grab a very light color. Let's add a little bit of light on that eyeball, making it appear a bit more moist. Just a slight edge, a little bit of a light shine here, and we can add some dabs of light on that edge of that lower eyelid. A little bit of light here. And we can brighten this highlight here in the corner. Perhaps some light here on that upper eyelid. You can give it a bit of a skin texture by creating these lines. And you can make that highlight a bit more tidy. Now let's grab a dark gray, and for instance you could add a little bit of wrinkles here on that skin. And work on that bulge just beneath that lower eyelid a bit. And with a lighter value, you can even add more to those wrinkles. Add some highlights. Just do be sure to grab reference images, grab your own eyes, and keep practicing this technique. You can make one eye every day and see how you progress. Just don't forget to share your work on Instagram, tag me in the image because I would love to see it. And if you want to watch more, then you can check out these two videos over here. Thank you so much for watching.